Welcome to our caregiving seminar dealing with death. First, we'd like to talk about some of the responses to grief. One of the major things is a reduced concentration. It's like all you can think about is your loss, the person who died. And trying to focus on work, trying to focus on anything else is almost impossible. There's a sense of numbness. You just can't believe the person has died. I had this experience just recently with my mom, and even though we had prepared for her death or thought we'd prepared for her death, the reality of it just brought a sense of numbness, and I just can't believe that she's actually not here anymore. Sometimes there's a problem with disrupted sleep patterns. Some people want to sleep too much. Some people can't sleep at all. Same thing with eating. Some people eat too much or want to eat for comfort, and then other people just don't have an appetite at all. There's that roller coaster of energy, just the up and down emotions, which is certainly draining. It just wears you out. And I know that we've heard about the different stages or time frames of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But actually, there's no time frame. You know, you may go through those at different times, but be easy on yourself because you can't put yourself in a box and expect this is the order I'm going to go through these things. It's not about that for a grieving person. Some misconceptions of grief are, I shouldn't feel bad. Can we help how we feel? Feelings are just feelings, aren't they? So we really can't do a whole lot about that. Some people say, well, you know, I should grieve alone. But studies show that memories of the person who just died are more heightened right after they have died. So it's good to share happy times, even sad times about that person. That's why visitation's good. It's good when your friends come and your family comes and they say, I remember when your mom did this. I remember this about your dad, and this is what that meant to me. So there's a balance about grieving and being by yourself, but make sure you spend some time with others. There's a misconception that time heals all wounds. Do you know people that they lost a person to death 20 years ago, and the pain is still as deep as it was 20 years ago? It's not about the time, but it's about what we do with the time that matters. So it's working through that loss, processing the loss and the grief. I've heard people say, I've got to be strong for Aunt Susie, or I've got to be strong for my brother. Does that work? That just won't work. Maybe for a short period of time, but if we don't work on our own healing, we can't help others. It's only when we work to take care of ourselves that we in turn can then take care of others. Some people say, well, I just got to stay busy. If I can just be busy, I won't think about it, and this loss won't be so great. I had a friend of mine say to me, whose husband had died, you know, I have a great job. I'm busy all day long, but when I get home at night, I have that aloneness and that hole in my heart. So keeping busy didn't help her at all, did it? Again, there's a balance to all this. Have you ever had people say stuff to you that you wish they just wouldn't have said, and you think, please don't say that to me? Have you ever had somebody say, I know how you feel? Now, I lost my mom and my dad. A friend of mine could have lost her parents as well, and because we have unique relationships with them, the loss is totally different. So do I really know how she feels, or does she really know how I feel? We don't, do we? Because the loss is different. Have you ever had people tell you don't cry? I had that happen growing up a whole lot because my family was not one of criers. So, but sometimes the most healing thing you can do is have a good cry and be with a safe person that will let you do that. Have you ever had people say, well, just be thankful they're not suffering anymore. Just be thankful they're in a better place. Now, that's all true statements. You know, my mom's not suffering anymore. She's in a better place. But I'm the one left. I'm the one that I'm not, in her situation. So all those things are true for her, but they're not true for me. Have you ever had somebody say, well, God will never give you any more than you can handle? How comforting is that? That's not very comforting at all. Or some people may be just as blunt to say as, just get over it. You know, your loss has been going on long enough. You just need to get over it. Those aren't very safe people to be around, and you don't want to be around them. When people say those things, you just want to say, when you walk in the door and they say, how are you doing? You just want to say, I'm fine. Because it's easier, isn't it? It's just easier to say, I'm fine, you're not going to say the right thing anyway, so just to act recovered. But again, it's important to find a safe person that you can cry with, they'll cry with you, you can have appropriate emotions and work on that whole process. Because when people say those things, it makes you feel really isolated, doesn't it? It's like, they don't understand, and I'm just all by myself. Have you ever felt like nobody understands what I'm going through in this loss? Sometimes we might question our faith if people keep telling us that true stuff. It's like, well, I know that stuff, but I don't feel it. And so you just think, well, something's wrong with me, and it's not. It's just about feelings and emotion. And that can make us really angry, or we could get depressed when people say all those hard things to us that may be true, but may not help us and may not be comforting at all. So my advice is, find a safe person. Find someone who has a compassionate heart to help you work through the grief.
So when people say those true things, at least he's not suffering anymore, or God will not give you more than you can handle, or God's in control, why don't they help? They're true. Don't you think if you just could understand and just really believe what's true, then you won't have the emotions you have. You won't hurt. Why doesn't that work? Well, it's because it's nothing wrong with my brain. My brain is not broken. It's my heart that's broken. And so when you have a broken heart, you can know a lot of information, but it doesn't keep you from feeling what you feel. It doesn't keep you from the pain. And what we want is for our knowledge, our belief system, and our emotions to always line up and be parallel, but they're just not. You don't choose your emotion, and so don't be disgusted with yourself or depressed or feel like I must not really know or really believe. Emotion just is. And to know that it's your heart that's broken and not your brain is really pretty helpful. So, what am I going to do? How am I going to grieve? We've learned some ways, maybe things to say, things not to say, or how we should hear things and know that our heart's broken. But what can I do? I've had this loss. It's really painful. First, just come up with an accurate memory picture. There's a handout that you should get that gives you an opportunity to write those things down. What do you remember about this person? Maybe what's your first memory? If it's not your parent, you may think, how did I meet this person? What was the first thing that attracted me to this person? What's my worst memory of this person? When did they make me angry? When did they make me laugh? What were my favorite holidays? What were the saddest times? An accurate memory picture, not just all good and not just all bad. No relationship is just all good or all bad. So look at it accurately. And then stay connected. We have a real habit of isolating or thinking, I'm so sad, I can't make that phone call to connect with somebody for lunch, or I'm not going to go to that meeting because I just don't feel like it. But the longer you isolate, the harder it is to get back in and reconnect. So stay connected. Find 1 or 2, 3 good friends that you can touch base with, maybe every day. Talk to somebody, but stay connected. Take care of yourself. Exercise, eat, sleep, socialize. Don't withdraw and let yourself suffer, your health suffer. Because if you avoid those things of taking care of yourself, it will adversely affect you emotionally as well as physically. All right, you've got your accurate memory picture. You know what this person meant to you. Now it's time to do the next thing. Write this person a letter. Dear Mom, dear Dad, dear Bill, dear Sue. And in that letter, first express everything that you may need to forgive them for. What does that look like? Did they hurt your feelings? Did they do something that caused you some pretty rough consequences down the road? Were they not there when you needed them to be there? You know, you might have to forgive them for dying and leaving you alone. Might be more than you are willing to bear. And then, what about the things you're sorry for? Did you say anything that hurt that person? Did you not say something that hurt that person? What does it look like? What are you sorry for? Write all that down. Dear Mom, I'm sorry for this, or I forgive you for this. And then we have other emotions in addition to those two, don't we? And they may be resentment or joy, appreciation. That's a big one. And so you want to write those things in this letter too. Mom, I am so thankful that you went on all those Girl Scout trips with me. I know it was hard. The weather was bad. Dad, I really thank you that you taught me how to invite people into our home, that you were such a servant, and I learned that from you. I'm really thankful for that. Mom, I appreciate that you went out on a limb to buy me that doll. And I remember that. It was years ago, but I remember you did that for me. Maybe it's, Bill, I resent that you never paid any attention to me. You need to write it down, because those are the things stuffed that will come back up later and present problems for you. Disappointment, anger, what are those emotions that you feel? Then when you get your letter written, you want to say goodbye at the end. Not goodbye necessarily to the relationship, but goodbye to this communication. Kind of like a phone conversation, goodbye, and then hang up. And then you want to read this letter to a safe person. Cheryl talked about a safe person. What does a safe person look like? They're going to listen to you, and they're not going to criticize what you say. They're not going to evaluate it. All they're going to do is listen. When you get finished, they may give you a hug, because you may need that. So, what are we going to do about our grief? We're going to hear those things that are comforting to us. We're going to write a letter. We're going to share it with a safe person. But also remember the other side of that. How are you going to respond when someone else is grieving? You know, what are you going to say? Sometimes we say the very things that we know would not help us because we think that's what is expected. So, I'm really sorry for your loss is always safe and always good, comforting. Remember the person. My favorite thing about your mom, I really like the way she smiled. A good memory is always good. So it's not the time that heals your broken heart. It's what you do with the time. Work on that. Do something to take action to let your broken heart begin healing.